Good morning, Education Summit participants. My name is Sarah Garcia.
And I'm David Palter, and then we have one more colleague on our team, Sarah Murdoch.
Together, we support the Education and Workforce Development Team for the Silicon Valley Leadership Group.
And the Leadership Group Foundation.
So welcome to the summit. The theme of the summit is Equity, Education, and Talent Development Post-COVID. You will hear from speakers addressing education, cradle through career.
The main goal of this forum is to share information that will help all of us become better servant leaders in the education space. One of my favorite Yogi Berra quotes has recently become more apt than ever. The future ain't what it used to be, that's for sure. But by building intentional, equity-driven partnerships and learning from one another in forums like this, we do have an opportunity to seize this moment to create a better Silicon Valley and a better California. We could not have staged an event like today's without the generous support of many of our leadership group member companies. Please join us in thanking our sponsors. You'll have an opportunity to hear from them throughout the event. Thank you to Ripple, ServiceNow, Synopsys, IBM, Deloitte.
Thank you to Poly, Comcast, KQED, Bank of America, Excite CU, Santa Clara County Office of Education.
Thank you to Microsoft, Applied Materials, San Jose State University, the Morgan Family Foundation, TechCU, Chabot Las Positas Community College District, and the University of Phoenix.
We have a wonderful group here today, here and everywhere actually. Whether you're here from your kitchen, your car, if you're lucky, Capitola Beach, shout out to our mayor, Ms. Peterson. And thank you for joining us on our first and hopefully last virtual education summit. We'd like to recognize all of the current, former, and future educators in the audience. Let's give a Zoom round of applause. We'd also like to recognize the elected officials. Thank you for joining us today.
We want to thank our Education Summit Subcommittee. It's a talented collection of leadership group members who led the planning of today's event, as well as all of our staff colleagues who helped put together and facilitate this summit.
The Silicon Valley Leadership Group is a membership organization made up of a diverse array of 350 companies, colleges, universities, and nonprofits. Collectively, our membership addresses economic vitality and the quality of life in Silicon Valley. Through programs like policy advocacy, we have portfolios that tackle a range of key issues: transportation, housing, education, health, energy, environment, tech and innovation, and we are proud to say, added to our organizational work plan this year, just a few weeks ago, racial justice and equity. This summit is a signature event of our education and workforce portfolio, whose driving goal is to build a strong talent pipeline that is reflective of our beautiful community.
Now for some Education Summit event logistics. All of the links to every session are on the digital program we shared with you via email yesterday, and our chat moderators will also include them right here in the chat. Simply click on those links to go to your next preferred session. We would now like to introduce Jamie Vargas, Senior Global Community Affairs Manager at our member company, Synopsys, to introduce our keynote speaker. Jamie, I'll turn the show over to you.
Excellent, good morning. Can you hear or see me? Because I can't on Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great, thank you. Good morning. Thank you to Silicon Valley Leadership Group for bringing us together to have these critical conversations. For more than 30 years, Synopsys technology has been the heart of innovations that are changing the way people work and play, like self-driving cars, machines that learn, and lightning-fast communications. These breakthroughs are ushering in the era of smart everything, where devices are getting smarter, everything's connected, and everything must be secure. Synopsys helps leading companies innovate from silicon to software so they can bring smart everything to life. As we find ourselves facing unprecedented health, climate, and racial crises, Synopsys is committed to working to solve big challenges here in Silicon Valley and around the world. We mobilize our resources and the passion of our employees back into the community to develop the next generation of leaders and problem solvers, students with the STEM education skills and confidence to address these complex issues. Our charitable giving and employee engagement initiatives help create high-quality experiences for all students to succeed, prepared for today's digital era and the future of work ahead. We support science fairs, after-school robotics programs, mobile science labs in rural areas, and mentorship for students to develop apps for good. We know education is a game changer for individual students, their families, and society at large. That's why Synopsys is so proud to partner with education leaders and organizations in and out of the classroom. And now we have the privilege of hearing from one such leader today. I'm delighted to introduce Becky Pringle, President-elect of the National Education Association, the nation's largest professional employee organization with 3 million members working at every level to fulfill the promise of public education. There are many ways to describe Becky: strategic thinker, transformational leader, advocate, defender of educational rights for all students and communities of color. She's also a middle school science teacher with 31 years of classroom experience. Those who know Becky call her a fierce social justice warrior. She directs NEA's work to combat institutional racism and spotlights systemic patterns of educational injustice. Now more than ever, we have so much to learn from her long career focused on expanding access, opportunities, and outcomes for students. Get ready to be inspired, and please join me in welcoming Becky Pringle.
Good morning. If we do not act, we shall surely be dragged down that long, dark, and shameful corridor of time reserved for those who possess power without compassion, might without morality, and strength without sight. Dr. King knew that people of goodwill must always face the challenge of whether or not they will, with righteous indignation, speak up when justice is in peril, stand up when the very foundation of our democracy is threatened, rise up when the powerful and the privileged misuse, abuse, or wield their will to oppress and diminish and destroy. No pressure, Silicon Valley Leadership Group, but you are those people of goodwill. It is you who will engage and inspire, prepare, and connect our collective voices to create the kind of schools and communities and country that reflects our highest hopes, our dreams, our highest ideals. I am so honored and thrilled to be with you in this virtual space, representing 3 million teachers and support professionals of the largest labor union in this country. At this, your 2020 and probably only and hopefully last, virtual Silicon Valley Leadership Group Education Summit. As the largest advocate for education in the Bay Area and in California, your work to close equity gaps that persist in our education and economic sectors is absolutely critical, not only at this moment, but it's what's required to create that more just future. Let me take a moment to thank the Leadership Group Board of Directors, who I understand just made history by hiring the first ever African-American CEO of the Leadership Group, Ahmad Thomas, who you'll have the opportunity to hear from during his closing keynote. I also want to recognize the staff who did the work behind the scenes to make this event a reality. Sarah, and David, we all know the work and the coordination it takes to convene an event like this. So we all just want to say thank you. And to all of you who have joined us, I must also thank you for continuing that success of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, because educators and nonprofits, business officials, and elected officials all too often work in silos. But this summit reflects then an understanding of how important it is to bring us all together in one space is absolutely critical. To find solutions to our students' most challenging problems, we must commit to collaborating to think more broadly about the kind of educational and career opportunities that we can create together. And your work, it speaks for itself. From focusing on diversifying STEM, something near and dear to my heart as a middle school science teacher, to promoting your community college to career program that has provided work-based learning and career opportunities for more than 1,400 students, to your young men and young women's leadership summits that offer mentorship opportunities to over 200 middle school students from underserved communities every year. And what's so powerful is that you don't just focus on your own priorities. You also look outward to make sure the conditions get better for our students in our communities, most especially our communities of color that have been marginalized and under-resourced intentionally and systemically. Your decision to be one of the first industry associations to publicly support Prop 16, to reinstate affirmative action and promote equal opportunity in public hiring in California speaks volumes about your integrity and your recognition of the magnitude of your responsibility. At the NEA, we understand and embrace that responsibility too. The preamble to our mission reflects that commitment. We, the members of the National Education Association of the United States of America, are the voice of education professionals. Our work is fundamental to this nation, and we accept the profound trust that has been placed in us. So we are leading at the NEA a movement to reclaim public education as a common good, as a foundation of this democracy, and then transform it into a racial and socially just and equitable system that's actually designed to prepare every student, everyone, to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world. And we know that we can't do that alone. That's why our priority work that includes a national call to action for collaboration to usher in a new era in education, one that's characterized by professional respect and unity and collaboration for student-centered success. That's why our priority work also includes promoting community schools that focus on the whole student, by meeting the needs and mining the assets of the community and partnering with community organizations and social systems to ensure every student has what they need when they need it. We also know that we must center our work in equity and justice. That's why we committed the NEA to taking on institutional racism. So we are leading our members to a journey of awareness and capacity building and action. We're working to ensure our educators are taking steps to address implicit bias, steeping their professionalism in restorative justice and cultural competence, learning about the culture and history of students, and preparing themselves to teach a more complete history of this country. And now, here we are. We could not have possibly anticipated being in isolation because of this coronavirus pandemic. But we're still working hard to continue our students' learning despite the digital divide we already knew existed, trying to address the gaps that are widening because of the inequities that have been built into the interconnected social systems, adversely compounding to impact the learning of far too many of our students. But as leaders, all of us, we can't be deterred or distraught by this season of suffering. Instead, we must find our way to hope. What Brian Stevenson describes in his book, Just Mercy, as an orientation of the spirit, the kind of hope that creates a willingness to position oneself in a hopeless place and be a witness. The kind of hope that allows one to believe in a better future, even in the face of abusive power. That's why all of us must become the leaders we need to be in this moment. We need you to continue to use your powerful and respective voices talking about that other pandemic, institutional racism, that is finally, rightfully taking center stage as the brutal killing of George Floyd and so many others jolted the conscience of this nation. Thank you for your powerful statement in support of Black Lives Matter movement, declaring that we know that sitting on the sidelines in times of racial injustice is unacceptable. We must stand up for what is right and speak out against what is wrong. Racism is wrong. We rise in support of organizations dedicated to racial justice, peaceful action, and economic equality. You are doing this work because you understand there's just no excuse why some children in America don't have what they need so they can learn, why they don't have the security of knowing their basic human rights are protected so they can live, why they don't have a support system that sees their humanity so they can thrive. We lost a powerful voice for racial and social justice in Congressman John Lewis. Let us reflect on his life and his legacy, on his willingness to always get into good trouble. As we commit ourselves to heeding the clarion call of Cesar Chavez, there's no turning back. We will win because ours is a revolution of the mind and of the heart. There's no turning back. When the assets of our communities are disrespected and dismissed, we can't turn back. When racism and sexism and homophobia and hate are being sanctioned from the highest office in this land, we can't turn back. When all of society's ills and precious few of its resources are laid at our schoolhouse door, we can't turn back. We must use our collective power, and with righteous indignation, we must demand justice. We can't turn back because our babies are depending on us to be worthy of them. Thank you so very much for all you do, for your colleagues and for our children, for our educators, and for this country. Have a tremendously powerful and productive conference.
Thank you, President-elect Pringle. This is Angelica Cortez. Good morning with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group, and I'm here representing our membership team. But I just have to say, that your words are like reverberating through my body. My heart is beating with yours, and I am over here in my little kitchen ready to like run a few laps around my block, because everything that you stated just truly speaks to me on a personal level, on a professional note, as a student of ethnic studies, as one of my vocations. Thank you for your words and for joining us this morning and helping us to uplift together and to start this education summit with quite that punctuation. So I am here to help kind of get our movement going even more with some questions with you. And I guess my first question is, as we give all of our attendees a chance to indicate their questions in the chat box, which I hope folks will send those through. You're getting so much love, President-elect Pringle. But what would you say, and this is me totally asking for my own like benefit, but hopefully folks on the line agree. I am involved with the Yes on Prop 16 campaign statewide with a collective of organizations. And one thing that truly, as an Asian American woman, myths, like it rankles me when I hear that there are groups that tout like we're Asian American and we're against Prop 16. And I'm like, no, you're not talking for this Asian American. In fact, you're not talking for a lot of Southeast Asian American communities like the Filipinos, the Cambodians, the Vietnamese, the Thai, the Hmong communities that that are all about making sure Prop 16 passes. So what would you equip us with when it comes to those conversations with those that are in our community that we look at across the table and we would assume like you're down with this with us, and then they're not, and then it's just like this weird dissonance and you're like, wait a second here. So what would you say to like kind of equip us to have those conversations too, when the assumption is we're in this together and we come from the same communities and they just approach it differently? Because that has always thrown me off, and it, rather than get upset, I want to be able to engage in those conversations.
So thank you so much, Angelica, for that question. I actually had several opportunities to join APALA there in California at one of their conferences, and we talked a lot about that, the API community in particular, and how so many people view them as monolithic. And what you just said is an example of that. And that's not only in the API community, that's in all of our communities. We have such a tremendous diversity throughout our communities, all of our communities as well. So it is, for me, Angela, everything is steeped in education. For all of us, we all should be on a journey of awareness to learn more about our own communities, but most especially about other communities. My father was a history teacher, and he did his best. I'm a science teacher, so not so much history, but he did his best to teach his three daughters about history. He changed his curriculum to teach his students about the Harlem Renaissance and to talk about incredible writers and activists, not only in the Black community, but in the Latino community and others, because the curriculum was silent on that. So I'm really thankful that you are steeped in ethnic studies, something that the NEA is focused on, not only lifting up, but actually passing policies throughout this country on. So I'd love to partner with you on that. But it's absolutely important that we understand that, I'm so sorry, that we understand that we must unite our communities. We absolutely must unite them. We have to find what we have in common. And for us, that is the promise of this country. You know, I often talk about that first small little word that is at the very beginning of our Constitution. We the people. You know, the founders that didn't look like me or you, they actually had the poetry right. They did, but they never intended it to be we the people. They constructed every document, every policy to not have it be we the people. But we have to, between and among our communities, unite so that it is finally we the people. Black, brown, white, API, indigenous. We need to ensure that we have our LGBT community, differently abled, all of us, that it is we the people who have the opportunity to live with dignity and respect, to be able to pursue that happiness, to be able to thrive, to live into our individual and collective brilliance. And we can only do that, Angelica, if we continue individually and collectively that journey of awareness. So we build our racial justice muscle so that we can unify in this moment to reach that aspirational vision of we, the people.
Thank you so much, President-elect Pringle. I am fired up over here. I'm like, rah! I am so ready for Friday, and I am ready for today. On behalf of our team, thank you so much for opening such a powerful day, and we appreciate your time, and we look forward to partnering with you. I will be reaching out. Can everyone please, with your favorite emoji, just please give all the props to President-elect Pringle for her opening speech. And I am now going to turn it over to my colleague, Sarah Garcia, our Director of Workforce and Education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pringle. We are very, very happy to have had you here with us today. We are now going to move on into the remainder of our program. If you are part of the public education in the midst of COVID panel, you can stay right here. Otherwise, please look at the links in the chat box to join your panel. Again, President Pringle, thank you so much for your inspiring words. We will begin the panel in 1 minute.